welcome to Playing with Possibilities. I am Cecile Armstrong. I'm joined today by my friend Christine Gautreaux. Not sure if Ade Anifowose is going to be joining us today, but if he shows up, we'll be happy for it. All right, so like I said, my name is Cecile. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Black woman and a self care and social justice facilitator. I am streaming to you live from the unceded land of the Kickintan, colonized as Newport News, Virginia. I am the founder of Inspired by Indigo, an online membership community where I guide folks to let go of blame, shame, and guilt so that we can make equity a habit. Hold on, I want some help right here. There you go. Every month we go through 4 steps. 4 steps to make equity a habit. The first one is self-care, because when you can get in your body, feel what you feel, get grounded, then you have the capacity to do the other work. The second part is know your facts. And if you are someone who is trying to do the work and you don't know where to get the facts or you don't have the time, once you join my community, you don't have to worry about it because I do the work for you and then I just give it to you in mostly 30-minute or less segments. So I make it easy. And then the third part is undoing the work. I invite you and challenge you to use what you have learned and go out and make a difference in the world. And then the last part is I remind you to rest and rejoice. You got to give yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, everything a chance to rest once you get out of your comfort zone. And then you got to mark your wins. You got to recognize that you've done something, even if the only thing that went right was that you tried. So, and most of the time, you get more than that right. And so that's my community. You can find it at cecilearmstrong.com. Look, let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Oh yeah, okay. So we are live today on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. If you're watching us on Facebook or LinkedIn, please follow. And if you're watching on YouTube, please click subscribe and then click that little bell so you get a notification when we go live. And I'll turn this over to Christine. Hey, Christine, good morning.
Hey, my friend. Good morning. Hey, y'all. I am Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, a coach, a Amazon best-selling published author with
I
my
need to
friend
put that in mine.
Cecile, right?
Yeah.
And an advancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself in community care. I am one of the
Oops.
co-hosts and co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast, community, and conference. And I am just delighted to be here to be in connection with you, my friend, and talk
Yes.
about how do we do this in the midst of chaos? How do we play with possibilities? How do
Hmm.
we connect? And how do we take care of ourselves in order to sustain our community care?
Yeah. Well, today I thought that we would play with the possibility of adjusting our expectations of ourselves.
Just going right in, aren't we?
Right?
Can we breathe first? Can
Yeah,
we breathe first? Because I need to
I
breathe
can
on that
breathe.
one.
Okay. All right. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, I am inviting you to get into a comfortable position. If you're sitting up, have your head over your shoulders and your shoulders over your hips. And then check in with your body, check your jaw, and see if you're holding any tension there. And then notice your shoulders. If they're up around your ears, bring them down. And next, bring your attention to your belly. If you're sucking your tummy in, let it out. Nobody's looking. And if they are, it doesn't matter. And then close your eyes and take a deep belly breath. Breathe through your belly, not your chest. And then exhale at your own pace. Let's do one more. Do one more deep inhale. And then exhale when you're ready. Okay, now you can open your eyes. Yeah, I needed that. I've been running around all morning, so I needed that to get back in my body.
Me too. I started the week out with a chiropractic appointment because my
Mhm,
chiropractor's taken off for 2 weeks, and so I was like, "Ooh, I got to squeeze that in before they get out of town."
mhm,
And as I was leaving, a friend called and said, "Hey, I'm headed over the park for a walk. Do you have time?" And I barely had time because, we have our standing manifesting Monday, but I'm like, yep, I'm going to grab some steps while I can. And
Mhm.
so I got in about 5,000 steps, and it was a little like more activity than I like on a Monday morning, but it was
Mhm.
also, I don't know if I told you about this, Cecile, but I've been following Andrew Huberman's podcast, Huberman Lab, and he
Mhm.
was talking about, he's a Stanford-based researcher that really talks about brain and different modalities and different. I got clued into him about the power of play for
Mhm.
adults, and I use his research in my work. But he was talking about, in order to have like productive days, and I want to bring this up because of what we want to talk about different expectations of ourselves.
Mhm.
But he was saying there were three things we needed to do in the morning, first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And he said within the first 2 hours of waking up, which is a little dicey, but okay. Okay. So 10 minutes of sunshine,
Mhm.
an hour of working out, which I know
Mm,
you and I like to get our walks in and get in the sunshine. So I was
I
like,
don't
that's a
always do an
nice,
hour.
right? I know, me either. But I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do an hour, but 40 minutes,
Mhm.
I'm out there. And then one thing to get your brain going. So whether that's like a study or read something, for me, do my wordle, what
Mhm.
is it that gets your brain going? and
Mhm.
and that leads to setting yourself up for having a really awesome day. So I'm
Mhm.
playing with that right now and seeing
Okay.
what my body thinks about it.
I like that. I like that idea. So,
Mhm,
like I said, we were playing with the possibility of adjusting our expectations of ourselves.
mhm,
And, in my blog post last week, I talked about adjusting with the seasons. And are you carrying your expectations for what you do in the summer? Are you carrying that into the fall? And what would happen if you listen to your body? And noticed if maybe you want to go to bed earlier, or
mhm,
maybe you need to get up and get outside earlier, like you were saying, because,
mhm.
if you were used to taking your walks in the evening and now there's no sunlight,
Very
maybe
good
you want
then.
to take your walk in the
Mhm,
morning. And so that's why I just kind of wanted to carry that conversation over about, what are some other ways that we're just pushing through, doing what we've always
mhm,
done instead of actually paying attention to our bodies and figuring out, do I need to adjust my expectations? Maybe this is a different season and you haven't changed anything. Not necessarily season like physical season, but it could be a different season in your life and you're still
mhm.
operating, with old
Like I'm
thinking.
20,
Right.
right? Right? Yeah. Uh, the thing that first bubbled up for me when you sent this topic was about, especially because we just did this launch, right? We just did the
Mhm.
big launch for the book. We're about to
Right.
have the conference.
Mhm.
And what I noticed as an entrepreneur and a solopreneur, and this is where I'm just going to state it out loud because I need some accountability and I need some adjustment around this. So,
Okay.
what I will do is like I'll have a big event and then I
Mhm.
won't give myself the space to rest or recover, right? I'll give a
Mhm.
little, but my
Mhm.
body is very different. Like that was a big thing. Or
Mhm.
even harder for me is when I take off
Mhm.
and then I expect myself to jump right back in and be
Mhm.
double. And I have this weird expectation of, oh, you've got to get double done because you were gone, right?
Right.
And so I know for myself, what I need to play with is some more buffer time,
Mhm.
like, and be appropriate with my expectations. But like I worked
Right.
all Saturday, right? I
Mhm.
taught life practice program.
Mhm.
And then Sunday, my youngest was home for college for fall break. So my day was not my own. I was supporting her, getting things done.
Mhm.
So I really haven't had downtime. So
Mhm.
this morning I noticed that in my body. My body was like, whoo, whoo, right?
Well, I can tell you, I feel you on this, and this is part of the reason why I brought up the topic because after the big launch last week, and I had my workshop, How to Talk to Your Racist Friends and Family,
Mhm,
and then I had several other things back to back, and I wanted to keep going because I know that I have a lot of stuff coming up, but my body was like, "Nope, you're gonna rest." And so there were 2 days that I did not plan on doing, like, very little work. I had planned to work a lot, and my body was just like, "Nope, if you don't slow down right now, you're gonna crash." And so I listened. And it's like, okay, I'd rather take the time now and do what I want than crash and not be able to do anything, and then take longer to recover. So I did take 2 days. I did work a little bit each day, but not
mhm,
nearly as much as I had planned. And I just kind of didn't look at my to do list because I knew that would stress me out. And so that was when I was like, maybe we should talk about this. I know I'm not the only one who
Right?
does
No,
this.
no, I definitely don't think you're the only one that does this. And sorry,
Mhm.
this light in my eye is, I don't know what's going on with my light today.
No.
It's
Okay.
I should have done a light check before we jumped on, but it's
That's all
okay.
right.
Like,
It's okay.
whoa. Yeah, I think that I mean, I think part of it is part of our US culture for sure. Like
Mhm.
go, go, go.
Right.
I saw a headline of an article, but I didn't get a chance to read it. I need to go back
Mhm.
and find it. It was talking about that workers in the United States are becoming less productive,
Mhm.
but how that, because they're realizing about self-care and they're realizing about balance,
Mhm.
and but that's going to be a problem for the economy. Like it's the, it's all tied into, I
Right.
need to go back and read it, but
That's the thing that they were calling a couple weeks ago. They were calling it quiet quitting, but because people were not doing extra, they're just doing what they're getting paid for. I'm like, how is that quitting at all?
no,
That's like taking your power back and deciding you're not going to be exploited. What? And
right,
then I saw some rich person, business person goes and says how quiet quitting is not the right thing to do, and da da da, all this stuff because he doesn't want his workers to
right,
take their time and their energy back. I was like, what the? Hmm.
right,
Anyway, quiet quitting is not a thing. That's about setting boundaries and expecting to have some work-life balance.
and I just want to state for the record that can be hard,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Because if
yeah.
people aren't used to you setting boundaries, like,
Mhm.
whoo, it can be a
Mhm.
thing. It can
Oh
be
yeah.
a thing.
It's a whole thing.
And I mean, I even think about setting boundaries with ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And the voices or the pushback, the internal things
Mhm.
that we get. Like, I mean, I know, like if I want to take a day off, I'm like, oh, but you have so much to do. Oh, like
Mhm.
especially as an entrepreneur and somebody that owns your own business, right?
Right.
Like a
Right.
lot of times, yes, you can have other people doing some of the work, but there's some stuff only you can do, right?
Mhm.
And it's and setting that up. I think about that in balance. I have gotten to take some good time off this year in
Mhm.
trying to, and I'm about to take some days off to go camping,
Mhm.
but talking about adjusting expectations, Cecile. Like, so I thought I was leaving Thursday morning, and my
Mhm.
sweet husband comes to me and says, "Oh yeah, I am off on Wednesday, so I think we should leave on Wednesday." I'm like, "Oh, I'm working to 8 o'clock at night on Wednesday, right?"
Mhm.
So it's not just our expectations of ourselves, but it's people we're in relationship with too,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And dancing that dance of
Yeah.
community and relationship,
Mhm.
and being true to our body wisdom about
Yeah.
what's going to work and what's not going to
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
Boom.
Yeah. Well, let me I have a story to share. This is not necessarily about expectations, but this morning, I told you I had a doctor's appointment this morning, and I am so used to saying when somebody asks me what I do, I'm used to saying, I teach people how to make equity a habit. And I'm used to being around people who know what that means. And so when the nurse asked me, so what do you do? And I told him, I was like, I teach people how to make equity a habit. And he had his back to me, he's filling stuff out. And he stands up and turns around and looks at me. And he goes, what? And so I said, I teach anti-oppression. He goes, that is so needed. And I like the way you said that. And I was like, thank you. And so I answered a few questions. And then the doctor comes in. Now, this was a young white guy. And then the doctor comes in, and he's an older white guy. Um, New doctor for me. But anyway, he's an older white guy. And he comes in and he's like, so what do you do? And I was like, I teach people how to make equity a habit. He looks up from the computer and turns around and looks at me and says, say that again. And I told him, I said, I teach anti-oppression. I teach people how to make equity a habit. He goes, I've never heard it phrased that way. Can you tell me more? And so,
What?
and so I told him, I said, most people would call it DEI, but I don't like that because that like it's like that's your thing. You go do that and it's
Mhm,
separate. And I said I teach people how to make it a habit and incorporate it into their everyday life, wherever you take up space. When you notice oppression, if you know how to recognize it and then you know how to speak against it, then it becomes a habit and it's part of the way you live. And it's just part of what we
mhm.
do, as people who are creating a better society instead of leaving it up to other people. And he sat back in his chair for a second and he was like, I really like that. And who do you work for? I was like, myself.
Myself.
And then he leans forward and he goes, what?
And just saying,
Because he was
I can
because he
teach your
was
staff and I
right, he was
can.
like, because he was like, "What? Who do you work for? What nonprofit do you work for?" And I
Mhm,
was like, "I don't work
mhm,
for a nonprofit. I work for myself."
mhm.
And that was just like so. It was so different because I'm used to being around people that when I say that, they're like, "Oh, I haven't heard it phrased that way, but I know exactly what you're
Mhm,
talking about." And here I am
mhm.
in a different environment, and I'm saying it, and I'm owning it. In a space
Well
where I
done.
normally don't own it, and their
Right.
reactions are just like priceless.
Well done. Well done. Yeah.
Whew. So anyway, that was kind of we were talking about setting boundaries and stuff.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of times when I'm in spaces where that's not like the main topic, I will downplay what I do. But today I owned it and it felt like it was establishing a boundary or something. So
Right?
that's what made me think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well done, my
Their
friend. Well
faces,
done.
though. Their faces, though. It was awesome.
Whoop,
So it
like
was,
the
yeah,
cartoon, like the cartoon faces, like,
yeah,
what'd she say?"
and the fact that both of them had their backs to me, well, profiles to me, and they stopped what they were doing and turned around and looked me full in the face to say, "What?"
Yeah,
Ooh, and they
that's
liked it.
awesome.
Yeah,
Good
thank you.
job. Good
Thanks.
job, good job. Yeah. I,
Yeah.
what's coming up for me is being gentle with myself about the
Mm.
times that I don't do that as an
Oh, yeah.
entrepreneur.
Mhm.
That, I think, "Oh, I missed an opportunity," or, "Oh, I
Mhm.
could have said that." But and there's sometimes I just don't wanna talk about it.
Mhm.
Like, there's sometimes I'm like, "Can I just scooch under the radar and pretend that, like," only because, both you and I have very outward facing things that we do. We have a
Mhm.
lot of people that we're connected to.
Mhm.
And I would say I'm probably an ambivert. I mean, most people look at me and think, "Oh, she's an extrovert."
Mhm.
But I definitely need time to recharge. And
Mhm.
this is one of my markers when I know like I'm not holding good boundaries or I need to
Mhm.
reset expectations of myself
Mhm.
is when I don't want to connect with people, right? Because
Mhm.
connection's my thing.
That is
So
your thing.
I'm
Yep.
just like, if I'm not wanting to connect, I've I'm doing too much output and not getting
Mhm.
enough input. So that's one of
Mhm.
my markers. I know
Yeah.
our friend and colleague, Shannon Ivy, who's one of the authors in the book with us,
Mhm.
said that one of her markers is when she loses her sense of humor.
Oh.
So she's like, so I think that's a good thing to know, right? Is what
Uh-huh.
are our markers? What are the things
Mhm.
that we start? And when you said that story, I was like, I first of all realized I started shooting on myself. I'm like, don't do that. Be gentle with yourself.
Right.
And it is a marker for me. If I
Mhm.
don't want to talk about what I do, or if I don't want
Mhm.
to connect,
Mhm.
that's a okay. Check yourself. You need
Right.
something,
What do you need?
right? Right.
Exactly. Mhm.
And talking about the change of seasons, I loved your blog, by the way.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
just such a talented writer, my friend.
Aw, thank
I was
you.
just grateful
Here,
for
let me
you,
put it up here for anybody who's looking for it. It's at
right?
cecilearmstrong.com/blog.
I have noticed, which is very weird for me, and I don't know if it's the season or if it's my age or what, because I have always been a 7.5 hour sleep girl.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, if I get seven, but whoo, my body is wanting some more sleep.
Oh,
Like,
I always sleep more in the fall and
mhm,
winter.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am
Mhm.
really paying attention to that because I'm needing
Mhm.
about 30 minutes to an hour or more.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but then I have to reset some other expectations because I live
Right.
my life pretty full. So
Yes. Yes, you do. I could not do the what things that you do because I'm always like, "You're gonna get all that done? Where's the breaks in there?"
can I tell you, have you ever done any work or played around with human design?
A little bit.
Okay.
Just a little.
I had a session yesterday. I was gifted a session with
Mhm.
Rayanna Starr. She's a practitioner out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Mhm.
And we were in a program together. And so she was gifting people. She has several things she does. And I was like, oh, I want to take you up on that one because
Mhm.
I want to explore it more. But it
Mhm.
was very fascinating because in my human design, it really talks about that. It
Mhm.
talks about how I have all these motors filled in and I go, 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 go. Like,
Mm.
'cause I
Mhm.
get a lot of pushback for that from people. Like, they're like, "Oh, you do too much, you do this, you do" I'm like, "Yo,
Oh,
my
no, that's your
body."
speed. I just know I can't keep up with you at that
Right?
speed.
Right? I know, you have never given me pushback, but I just wanna say the outer world a lot of times is like,
Mhm.
"Rawr, rawr," everybody likes they project their own
They
things
project
onto
their
it,
own
right?
things. Yeah. Mhm.
And but it was fascinating yesterday. It was very much an affirmation. Like
Mhm.
there was one or two things that were like, okay, that's curious. But most of it was like, yep, yep, yep.
Mine
And it
the
was
thing that I got mine was, like, really in alignment with who I am and how I operate too. I was shocked. I was like, "Wait a minute, how do they know me so well?"
right. It was wild. And
Mhm.
I was just but that part about going, going, going
Mhm.
was in it. It was
Mhm.
like, yep, you've got this energy and this is why and this is how you use it. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, okay.
Well, you've heard me talk about before how, I get super emotional about stuff. That's how I process, new information is, like, through my emotions, and you've heard me talk about people who have pushed back on that saying, "You shouldn't be so emotional, you need to be more logical and, take emotions out of it," and mine basically said, "This is how you process things." It was like, if you can't do the emotional stuff first, then you're not gonna get to the other piece. So, yeah.
All right.
So I
No,
feel
I
you on that.
agree. That's
Mhm.
the exact thing mine said too. So it doesn't surprise me. We should
Mhm.
look at ours together because it was
Yeah.
interesting how she said about collaborations and things like that.
Mhm.
I got a little second distracted because Ade responded and he said
Oh,
he won't be with us today. He's been
okay.
on a black men retreat, a weekend retreat, co-facilitating, and he's catching up.
Okay.
And he has another one coming this weekend. So he thinks October 21st is probably going to be when he'll rejoin us. So
Okay, well, we miss him. I'll send
yes,
him a message when we
absolutely.
when we log off.
I know.
So, anyway, what do you think are some ways so for anybody who's watching or listening and saying, "Okay, well, maybe I do need to think about adjusting," what
Mhm,
can they do? And I know we talked about maybe adjusting how much you need to sleep,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
and ways what are some ways that they can figure out what it is that they need? What do you think?
mhm. Well, I think the first thing is to listen. So
Mhm.
I think take a deep breath.
Mhm.
If you already are embodied and can check in with your body, just ask it what it needs.
Mhm.
I used to do a practice a long. I'm glad we're having this discussion because it's been a minute since I've done this practice. I
Mhm.
used to get a journal and a pen and just ask
Mhm.
body, what do you need?
Mhm.
And let it free form and write and
Mhm.
see what was needed, right?
I do
And see
that a
what
lot.
felt good, right?
Right. Mhm.
And just do that practice. The other
Mhm.
thing you could and I would track it a little bit too. That's when
Mhm.
I mean, in interplay, we talk about body data, body wisdom, body knowledge. And
Mhm.
we always say hang out in the data. Like the data is little bits and pieces and don't
Mhm.
immediately jump to, oh, I think I've got the answer. Kind of hang out there,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So I would kind of hang out there a little bit and ask and see. And it may be like you need to give up some kind of food, right?
Mhm.
I ate something this weekend that my body's like, fussy. And I'm paying attention to that, right? It's
Mhm.
like, okay, that may need to be off the menu because of the season changing or the way my body's reacting to it.
Mhm.
But I would take note of it and then incrementally, y'all.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, the baby
little
steps.
baby
Yes,
steps.
baby
Yeah.
steps. Mhm.
Be gentle with yourself. We
Mhm.
don't we I was just teaching this weekend about incrementality, that we often get into trouble in little steps and we can get out of trouble in little steps. Like when we
Mhm.
think about like when we put on weight, when we
Mhm.
get into debt, when things like often it's not a big thing, right?
Mhm.
Occasionally it can be, but
Right.
often it's little things and
Mhm.
we can be gentle with ourselves and shift
Yes.
incrementally or little. We
Mhm.
don't have to do it all overnight.
Don't have to do it all at once, right.
And in fact, I would recommend against it. Like I've been an athlete for a long time, and there are
Mhm.
times in my career, in my life, that I've been like, "Oh, I need to get back on the bandwagon." And most people listening have probably had this, where then you go and you work out way too hard, and then
Mhm.
you either injure yourself
Mhm.
or you get so sore that you don't get back into
You
the
don't
gym.
get back. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So being gentle with ourselves and first of all listening and identifying what it is, and
Mhm.
only picking one thing. Like don't pick
Oh my
everything,
goodness, yes. I tell people
right?
this all the time. You don't have to
Right?
pick everything. When we're
Yeah.
talking about even when we're talking about self-care, you don't have to do it all at once. Just pick one thing so you don't feel overwhelmed.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
also wanna say, I like the idea of journaling because I journal,
Mhm.
like, a lot.
Mhm.
But the other thing is if I know that some people don't like to write things down. There's all kinds of reasons. They just
Sure.
don't wanna put words, they don't wanna put it on
Sure.
paper because somebody else might find it. But just being quiet and just breathing for a
Mhm.
minute, that gives you space to
Mhm.
figure things out and to notice.
Right.
Mhm.
And if you struggle with that, if you struggle with the meditation or things like that, there are all kinds of tools now, y'all. Free
Mhm,
tools. I use Insight Timer, which is a free app that has
mhm,
thousands of guided meditations.
mhm.
And honestly, there I haven't looked, but there's probably one for just what we're talking about. Like
Probably,
you can get on there and search, and either you
probably.
can just use regular music to get yourself in that state, or you can have somebody guide you into it
Mhm,
because or you work with a coach, like work with
mhm.
somebody like Cecile or myself who can help guide you incrementally into your body. Because
And
I mean,
there's
I think oh, go ahead.
I wanna highlight another app. It's called Shine, and it's,
Mhm.
created by Black women for Black women. And I
Love it.
like that app. I listen to their meditations, and I love that their meditations are short and they're very specific. And so, yeah,
Mm,
if you haven't heard of Shine, check it out. It's in the App Store.
right. Right. I think, I mean, it's one that I love tech. And
Mhm,
I'm excited to disconnect from tech for a couple of days, but I also love it. And
mhm,
one of the things I love is because there's so many tools that
mhm,
are free that we can try, that we
mhm,
can. The other thing I would encourage people is think about what's worked for you in the past. I
mhm,
think often, like even just talking as that came up for me about, oh, I haven't done that in a while, right? But that
mhm,
was a tool that worked.
mhm.
What's in your toolbox? Maybe a
Right.
little rusty, may have a little cobwebs, but
Mhm,
peek in your toolbox of things you've already done that have
mhm,
worked. Or
mhm,
if you got a brand new shiny toolbox because you're just learning about it, then you could ask your friends, like, what's working for you,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
In this season, right?
Right. Right, and I'm just gonna hype my community one more time, inspired by
Yes,
Indigo,
please.
because every month, the first week of every month, we are exploring a new self-care technique, and
Mhm,
sometimes it might be about breathing, sometimes it might be about creating like this month, it was about creating a nighttime routine to set yourself up for success in the morning. It might be, learning how to meditate. It's all kinds of stuff. Every month we explore something different so that people can try things and figure out what works for them, and they'll have, access to other things, because whatever works for you right now is not going to work for you all the time. And so having other things to fall back on or other things to try is key to being able to maintain.
absolutely. I was
Mhm.
just thinking I'm behind on a couple of lessons because of my phone debacle.
Mhm.
So, remind me the app that I'm supposed to have on my phone.
Kajabi,
Thank
Kajabi.
you. It has been, when you're literally my phone is labeled Christine's brain, and when it quit working without any notice, like, I'm
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
right when you were talking about it, I was like, "Oh, I haven't been on in a couple of weeks." Oh, that's why, because it's not on your
'Cause it's
phone,
not on your brand new phone,
right?
right?
Oh my gosh. The things and the other thing is, like, what tools help you, right? I
Mhm.
know that I love that, so
Yeah.
all right, I'm
So
gonna do this
so
one
it's
offline, but I wanna make sure.
trial and error, is practice,
Mhm,
and if you tried something and it hasn't worked for you in the past, but you know you need something new,
mhm.
go back and try it again because it might work for you. You know? And
Absolutely.
then thinking about all the dimensions of wellness,
Mhm,
maybe what you need is not necessarily to change your eating habits, but maybe what you need is, something along financial wellness. Maybe if you get your finances straight, then you can stop stressing.
right.
Maybe what you need is some kind of social wellness. You've been isolating and you need to connect
Mhm.
with people. So, thinking about all the different dimensions of wellness too.
And I would say yes, yes to all of that, and I would
Mhm,
say both you and I in our practices, one of the things we do is then we stop and notice.
mhm,
So as you try something new or you add something to your routine or take something away,
mhm,
make sure you take time to pause and notice.
mhm,
Like, what is your body responding to? Is it liking it? Is it not liking it?
mhm,
How's it working for you? Because
mhm.
sometimes I mean, I know I'm guilty of this, Cecile. Like sometimes I'll add something and I'll just keep going, right? And
I've
it's
seen
like,
you do it.
I know
I've
you have,
seen you
right?
do it.
And it's like, okay, whoa, pause and let's figure out, is this really working? Like, is
Mhm,
this working for everybody? For
mhm,
myself, for my community, things like
mhm,
that. Yeah.
mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think
I'm
that's a
usually
big thing.
pretty good about pausing to notice,
Mhm.
because it usually just jumps right out at me. It's like, "No, this is not working for you." Yeah, but
Right.
yeah, sometimes you do have to be intentional about that pausing and noticing, though.
Right.
'Cause it's
Well,
not always
especially in
gonna be
busy seasons,
yeah,
right?
it's not always gonna just pop right up and be like, "Nope, this doesn't work." You're not always gonna have an immediate reaction that's, like, big and in your face. Sometimes
Right.
it's like, "Well, I'm gonna try it, and I'm just gonna keep going," and then you have to stop and say, "Wait, wait, 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 do I want this?"
I was just having this conversation with my youngest daughter because she's in her second year of college and, kind of hitting that wall that I think almost every college student does about like,
Mhm.
whoa, it's hard, right?
Mhm.
And we were having this conversation about reevaluating that
Mhm.
it's okay to take a pause and really look at everything
Mhm.
and say, is it serving you? Is it
Right.
serving you? And where do you want your intention
Mhm.
and attention?
Mhm.
Right? Because I do think that changes. And you address that a little bit in your blog. Like seasons are a great time to do it.
Mhm.
Right? You could
Yeah.
do it with the full moon that we just had. You
I
could do it
know.
with the seasons. You can
Mhm.
do it, but I think part of the wisdom is that we do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
It doesn't matter when you do it. Put it on your
Right.
calendar and do
Mhm.
it.
Yep. And putting it on your calendar, that's a start to making it a habit,
Right?
doing it regularly.
Right?
Everybody might not need to do it every month. Some people only need to do it maybe 4 times a year,
Right?
with the seasons. Some people might just might just wanna do once a year, which I'm like, "Ooh, that's a little long for me," but some people, that's what they need is to like, "Okay, what do I wanna take with me going into the next year?" And the next year doesn't necessarily have to start on January 1st. It could start with your birthday. It could start with some other time that's meaningful for you.
I love a good reset date though.
Mhm,
Like, I mean, there's just something about it, right? I do
mhm.
think it's silly that January 1st is a reset date when we party on January 31st. Like that's not good. That's not a good productive way to do it.
No.
But so you have to choose a different, but yeah,
Mhm,
I love a good like Monday or
mhm,
or new, I don't know. There's something about it that just gets
mhm.
me like, wow, or a new season. Like, oh, it's my favorite season. Right.
Yeah.
So what's something you're adjusting? What are you working on over there?
I am adjusting my eating. I have put on a little bit of weight, so I am reevaluating my eating habits and my workout, what I'm doing and how
Mhm,
often I'm doing it. So those are the things that I'm looking at right now.
mhm.
Yeah.
I've been looking at, increasing my steps,
Mhm,
and, I'm kind of splitting my workout a little bit,
mhm,
just to get it in and
mhm.
trying to add one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
My body really loves 2 workouts a day, which
Mhm.
is heck on my schedule, but, you know,
Yeah.
okay. If that's
Mhm,
what you really like body, that's what we're gonna do, right?
mhm, mhm.
So I'm looking at adjusting that, especially with the time of day and things like that,
Right.
as we head into less light.
Mhm,
And I'm adding more sleep into my
mhm.
schedule, which
Okay.
sounds really it's a challenge for me, I have to say, because
Mhm,
of the season I'm in and how much is going on. Like I'm
mhm,
like, "Oh, I gotta get up and do this." And it feels a little counterintuitive, but it's also when I check in and notice exactly what is being
mhm.
asked for. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and then too, remembering that you don't have to do everything right now all at once.
Right?
Yes, we both have, like, long to-do lists, but we
Mhm.
don't have to get everything done today. And I will say that's a old
Mhm.
carryover behavior from when I worked for, government nonprofits, was trying to
Mhm.
do everything and, you know, even though I knew that everything I crossed off, 2 more things got added to the list, I still kept,
Mhm.
like, staying longer and being expected to work longer and get more done, but now that I have stepped back from that, I really try to be intentional about, "Okay, I know I've got more things on my list, but I'm only putting these 3 or 5 things on the list for today, and the
Right?
rest of them can stay on my running list."
Absolutely. I
Mhm,
mean, I think you have to just for sanity's sake,
mhm,
right? Because there's always more to do. There's always
mhm,
gonna be more to do. And if
mhm.
there's not, your job is done.
Right,
I mean, whatever job you're in, really, right?
right,
Like
right. Yeah, I would love for my job to be over and for it to be done. I would love for equity to be the
right?
norm and my job to be over and I have to find something else. That would make me really happy.
Wouldn't it though? We're gonna have a party on that day, my friend. Like we
Right.
are partying,
I
partying,
think we
party,
need to
party,
party beforehand because I don't know that
right?
that's happening in my
Party along
lifetime.
what? Well, we were talking about this Saturday at the life practice program for helping professionals. We were
Mhm,
talking about how when you're taking incremental steps, right? Stop
mhm,
and party, stop and celebrate along the way. And I mean,
mhm.
you talk about this at Inspired by Indigo in your
Great.
community, right?
Yeah, that's step
We
4,
have
rest
to
and rejoice.
we have to redo it. We have to look at and claim what's going right. Like what
Mhm,
affirm what's good and what's working. And I think that's
mhm.
with any of this of playing with these possibilities of as we
Yeah.
shift things is to be gentle with ourselves and
Mhm.
celebrate, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Alright,
We got
look.
this.
Do we have I'm looking to see what music they offer. Here, this says dance pop. Let's see
Ooh,
what this is.
let's do it. We celebrating?
Yeah, I was gonna celebrate, but this doesn't sound like much. I'm trying to turn it up. Do you hear it?
I hear it. What are we celebrating?
Um, being on time today, showing up today, that a day is coming back in a couple weeks.
Right? The Women Connect in Wisdom book
Yes,
is out. Amazon bestseller.
Amazon bestseller.
The upcoming conference we're
Yes.
both speaking at.
Oh, that How to Talk to Your Racist Friends and Family was a success, and I'm gonna run it again next month.
Woo!
Whew. And let's celebrate. Um, let's celebrate reevaluating where we are and what we need.
I want to celebrate listening.
Yes. I want to celebrate fall. I love fall.
Oh, me too. I'm going to celebrate taking 4 days off.
Woo. All right, I'll celebrate that too. I'm not doing it, but but I'll celebrate with you. All right, friend. Turn this down.
I
Thank you for
adore you.
dancing with me.
Of course. Anytime. I'm here for it.
Ooh,
You know,
okay.
at Women Connecting Wisdom at the podcast, we have a new dance move. It includes rolling
Oh,
the
that
shoulders
rolling
from
the
being
shoulders.
on
Yep.
the being on the computer too long. It's our we work from home dance move.
Yes, I remember. I saw that. Okay, so if you are watching live or on the replay and you have questions about any of the things that we talked about, there are links. There are links in the description. If you're looking for Inspired by Indigo, if you're looking for Women Connected in Wisdom, if you're looking for a day because you haven't seen him here, all of our links are in the description, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, you guys. You guys. All right, y'all. I'm trying to stop saying you guys. That is such a habit. Trying to use non-gendered language. All right, y'all. We will see you next week. And as always, we are sending you fierce love.
See you soon.